Hey y'all, did you miss us? Well, guess what? We are black by popular demand. I'm Chris.
I'm Tobias.
And I'm Jonathan.
And this is Lit Talk, the space where you, your sister, your niece, your nephew, your sneaky link, and the man that you want to be your man that's really not your man, but is really somebody's baby daddy, can live in your truth. In today's episode, we talking about what does it mean to be black? You see us for the color of our skin. You see all this beautiful melanin. So now we're going to uncover it. Fellas, what does it mean to be black?
I mean, heavy is the head that wear the crown. I feel like as a black man, you already know what comes with it, the struggles. But at the same time, we like the only community I see walk around calling each other kings, queens, empowering each other. Even though we do tend to tear each other down, we got all of these issues within the society in general. But at the same time, with all that being said, I still feel like, we them niggas.
Last time a black man called me queen, we got into it. Okay?
Well, queen was for the women, but...
Those of us who navigate in between, all right? Jonathan, what does being black mean to you?
So, I'm going to go ahead and pull this out right here. I think this is a great representation or visual of what being black is. Society will throw us a lot of mess, a lot of BS, but we still find a way to propel and to move and to push the needle forward with everything that we do, with creating things, with style and art and fashion and music and sports. Everything we put our hands on, we are able to do it to achieve and succeed. And so I think that being black is just being resilient, being beautiful, being unique, being innovative, being number one. That's how I feel.
Well, you know what? I got two definitions. I'm going to tell y'all what my definition of black is. My black is spelled B-L-A-Q, and my Q stands for queer because right after you see my blackness, you got to get into my queerness. And how I've been able to navigate life is just being a black queer man. But I also think that being a black person, especially in today's society, comes with what you said plus trauma, comes with what you said plus pain, hurt, and a lot of unrecognized resentment that we don't have the power or don't have the tenacity to be able to uncover or discover. Going back about 30 plus years, because y'all two are older than I. How was it?
He tried it.
How was it navigating growing up black? Like, what was it like for y'all growing up as a black boy in the South? Like, in your community. How was that for y'all?
I'll let you go first.
I was about to say, like him, calling us on. But seriously, it was, I think for me, I mean, I grew up in Oak Cliff, so it wasn't nothing out of the ordinary because I grew up around people who look like me. I will say when I remember one traumatic moment when I was walking down, where was I going? I think I was just walking to the basketball court, and I was on Ledbetter, going, the same little road, Big T. Oh, we ain't too far apart. We in the hood, right? I was walking down, and it was like a pickup truck full of some white boys, and I remember them stopping and like throwing racial slurs at me, and I'm probably maybe 8 or 9, and I think that was my first real moment of racism is real. It's people out here that really don't like us. But that was my first wake up moment. I was like, okay, the struggle is real. And so since then, I think I had to learn to pivot fast and do what I got to do to get to where I got to get.
For me, although I grew up in the South, I'm from North Carolina, I don't think I really saw racism directly until I left my hometown. I'm from a very small rural area, and of course it's white people there, but I think just a community I'm from in general was more intertwined with each other where I didn't experience it growing up. The one time I did experience it, we weren't in my hometown. I think within Arkansas or something crazy. And my dad is he's crazy. We was at a U-Haul. This man called us a nigga, and he pretty much smacked him, took the keys to the U-Haul, and we left. And that was like the only time I experienced it. And he had a very stern conversation with me and my brother regarding racism and stuff like that. But I've never experienced it directly as a child, more so than an adult.
You know, it's so crazy that you said the first time that you experienced racism was in Arkansas, because when I was born in Arkansas and I was quintessentially kind of born into racism. So basically, my family is from rural Arkansas, and so we are from the country. And like my mom grew up poor, my grandmother grew up poor, my great grandmother grew up poor, and so my grandparents and my great grandparents grew up cleaning the homes of affluent white people in this small country town. And so early on, I learned and saw like what systemic racism looked like, and I also felt that. You know, my great grandmother, God rest her soul, Benny Jew Henderson, she was a fair-skinned woman, and so she was a house cleaner, and she cleaned the houses of these rich, white, wealthy women. And I have fond memories of me being 2 and 3 going with her because she was watching me when my mama was doing what she was doing, and seeing how these women would like treat her, and her just putting up with it, right? And then in growing up, moving to Memphis, because I was born in Arkansas but raised in Memphis. My parents always told me that they was like, well, son, you black and you a man. And because the color of your skin and your gender, you got to work twice as hard as everybody to get half as much. And I grew up always thinking that I wasn't enough because of the color of my skin based off the environment that I lived in, because I always thought that white people had it right and black people, we always were struggling for something.
You know, it's so interesting though, like the whole like, you know, like we got 3 strikes, right? Like being black, being male, and being gay. Like,
Who's gay?
oh my bad, bro. I'm sorry. He DL. But you know, it's like we have the 3 strikes. But I think that also too, like, it's crazy because like being a black man, right? I find myself having to show up in certain spaces, and maybe this is the part of the code switching. I find myself having to show up gay first, or letting white counterparts know that I'm gay first to alleviate any
To feel accepted.
Or to feel as I'm not a threat. So it's like they sometimes view black men sometimes as like powerful, and I'm guessing in a sense, but like I find myself having to do that bit. Like, how do y'all show up? Do y'all show up as do you show up as black first, or when do you show up as black first versus showing up as gay, or like like I'm a part of the community? Or like, how does that work for y'all?
So I definitely used to code switch. So when I went into rooms, I knew how to enter rooms according to who was in the room. If it's a professional environment, I'm gonna speak or I would speak a certain way. I would kind of move a certain way, not feel as comfortable. Now at my age, I carry my blackness anywhere I go. That's just where I'm at in life. However, I do feel like still to get into certain rooms and to stay in those certain rooms, you have to code switch. And I do feel like it's not a black thing to a certain extent. For example, you can be a white person who's rough around the edges. If you want a certain job, you're going to have to present with a certain amount of professionalism. However, I feel like it adds to that when you're black, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm at the age where I'm not code switching no more. I'm past that.
I really feel that. I think because like for me, growing up, like in elementary school, I was the black kid in the white schools because my mom and daddy couldn't afford to send me to private schools, so they sent me to the white school. Every year we moved based off of what school had the best teacher of the year. So like I grew up moving. Like my mom and daddy weren't in the military, but I definitely had a military upbringing, like a military upbringing, given how I had to move. And so I grew up not knowing too much about black culture and not being ingrained in black culture. Like I grew up listening to like Paramore and watching VH1 Jumpstart and listening to like pop music. And it was a pivotal turning point for me in my life, is because that I never forget, I was like in the 4th grade and I had like this mini fro. Yeah, I used to be chubby with glasses and I had a mini fro. I was really, really nerdy, all right? I used to do the people's homework, no shade, and I was doing it for free. But I wanted to get like locks because my older cousin had locks and I liked it. And so my mama had twisted my hair. And I went to school and the kids had got on me. Like They said that I look like they call me burnt Cheeto puff head, and I went home and put sand in my hair and washed out my hair. And my mama beat my ass because she was like, "Boy, I just paid $75 for you to get your hair twisted, and you doing this." And so from that point, and when I told her why, she was like, "Okay, we pulling you out these white schools, and we're gonna put you with your people so you can feel at home." And I think that from then I started to understand the importance that there was in showing up authentically as myself, no matter the space that I'm in. And so now, as I navigate the space as being like a black queer man, I make sure that I show up as me, because if I can't show up as me, if I don't have the autonomy to show up as me, that means that I can't be free.
Yeah.
And anything outside of freedom to me is equated with death. And so now I choose the spaces that I want to be a part of. I choose the spaces of how I show up, and either you like it or love it or hate it. And if you hate it, guess what? You can't do nothing but respect me, because you always know what you're going to get. You ain't going to be guessing how I'm coming.
So has it been, what spaces has your blackness been celebrated?
I feel like now we're at a time where not just businesses, but people are starting to realize that celebrating blackness is a win. So some people or some companies will take advantage of it to a certain extent. However, I don't think the intentions are good behind it. Perfect example, Met Gala, first Met Gala around black people. We showed every company pretty much at this point, you bring the black people out, we bring the black money in. So I feel like people take advantage of that and will falsely celebrate you for what you can do for them, if that makes sense.
So no tarp. Never mind. Let me not say that.
I think that, not to brag on the place that I work, but I think that working at a nonprofit organization that's nestled in the middle of a black community, that's ran by a black CEO and a black executive C-suite, you are celebrated to be black here. You know, our mission is to create a healthier black community. And so through that, we do our work through acknowledging the culture in which we all exist. And I love that. And I see that celebratory nature of just being black and everything that comes being black. Every day I come to work. I think that another place where we see celebration of black identities is within the black church. We don't want to dive too deep into church, because if y'all want to come back on a black church episode, make sure y'all watch our religious episode. But where black,
you're not gonna want to miss
being black can be celebrated, but being queer and being gay would never be separated. Would never be celebrated. But, and to your point, like, I feel like it's always been an uphill journey. And even now what's going on with the current administration, how they're doing away with DEI within the workplace, I feel like there's going to come to a space where we've done so much work to be celebrated and to find value, and we were supported and reinforced by the government, and things are going to go away.
And DEI is the perfect example of false celebration. All the companies that signed up for DEI, but then when we snatched out of Target, now y'all want to support us.
Yeah.
Are you supporting us because you support us, or are you supporting us because we got financial backing behind us?
And I think for me, the craziest part, or the craziest thing about that, is that DEI is not just associated. One, is not just associated for black people. Two, white women benefited the most.
That part.
And so to see certain organizations pull back or roll back on like pride and like black holidays and things like that, it's really a slap in the face, to your point, because it's like DI really it had more to it than just that. Now you just prove us as like, okay, like there's real racism out here for people who don't believe it. Yeah. That's a prime example.
Well, I think that American society was built off racism. Race wasn't even a thing until black bodies were brought over the Atlantic Ocean and enslaved and sold as cattle, and they needed a term to identify those folk who were working for a place to stay and live, for folk who are a different color to be able to benefit from. You know, and so from there we started like this systemic transition to where black people didn't have what they needed, and we were put into a specific category that others would view as less than to what we were needed. And I think that over time we have become socialized to thinking that this is how things are meant to be, this is what things should be, and we can't move beyond that, and we become the villains in our own story because we get so trapped in yesteryear without figuring out what the future can be, and figuring out how can we shift the narrative and how can we counter the narrative.
I feel like simply by just being yourself, unapologetically black. If you look at everybody who's authentically themselves, they're successful in their passion. The biggest stars you have, they're black in every room they go in. Cardi B, Jocelyn, they probably one of the most blackest people that we have in the headlights, but they're big for being black. Even if you look outside of entertainment, people who play sports, most of the people who are popular in sports, LeBron James, he's black in any room he go in. And I feel like white people do the same thing. They're white in every room they go in. They don't come in a black room and act black. So you just got to be yourself, and it's going to stand out.
I think that people don't realize that there is power and privilege in being black. Because to your point, I think that just being black comes with like this level of resilience that other races of folk don't have. But I think that where we miss the mark is that we don't know how to funnel that into something constructive and funnel that into something that's creative. And going back to what I said, a lot of times we are our biggest villains. You know, a lot of times we talk about black people can't come together for nothing. You know, we see white folks working together. We see Asian folk working together.
Can I play?
But black folks, we want to fuss, fight, argue, and steal.
Can I play devil's advocate, please?
Yes, come on.
Let me put my visual back up.
Baby, if you do not put up that Zimbabwe sculpture.
I'm playing with their furniture. I'm probably going to be fired after this. So, to play devil's advocate, there have been a multitude of towns and businesses that black people wanted to create for a community that white people took away from us. Like many towns that were flooded. Go ahead.
What was that city in Oklahoma? Like, it's like a big one.
Oh my God!
It was about
and it's more than just that.
Yeah.
It's like 15 of them.
the
It's
city in
over
Oklahoma,
15.
the town in Florida, right?
The Lake Lanier in Georgia.
Yeah.
It's a whole movie over Lake Lanier.
Yeah.
On Hulu, y'all should watch it.
Lake Lanier. Y'all should watch that. And it's people on YouTube who talks about like almost drowning and the ancestors came and picked them up out the water. It's some crazy stuff going. But it is towns where black people tried to do right and white people said it wasn't happening. It is towns that white people said, you know what, I'm going to bomb this because this ain't the CIA. Like, because they didn't want to see us succeed. Like, it's so many times I feel like black people have tried to do things and like white people were just like, I just don't want to see that happen. Or I cannot allow them to supersede us. Or we white people are going to do whatever it takes to not be the minority. And I think that's what's happening. Even with this, I'm trying not to get too political, but like even with the voting and stuff like that, I really believe it's about white people not wanting to be the minority. A black president, you got even with the immigrants, although realistically, the white folks are the real immigrants. I'm gonna shut up.
You know what is so crazy? You just made me think of something where like white people not wanting to be the minority. So like even like how when we talk about like demographics, there's black, white, Hispanic, non-Hispanic, and then but they categorize Hispanic folk either in a black category or a white category. Majority of them are identified as being non-Hispanic white. You know, so like even how like race and ethnicity is defined and what that looks like also creates an increased divide that goes to what you say. Like white folk don't want to be the minority, and as we move forward, recently, you know, with over the past 4 or 5 years, it's been like a lot of black spirit in the terms of like black liberation, right? So like during the police brutality that a lot of us had the opportunity to see prior to COVID and the Black Lives Matter movements and the Black Lives Matter marching, there was like this new wave ushered in of really centering black voices and black people to liberate us. And so I wanted to ask y'all, what are some ways that we as black people can liberate our communities to come together?
And then also too, in the chat, the first person to comment the town in Oklahoma, the first black town that's successful, the Black Wall Street, name the town.
And the first person to name, Jonathan gonna take you on a date.
I don't know about that, but I will send you $20. I can do that. I can pay for some lunch. I can do that.
For a date.
Now repeat your question, Chris.
So I think that, in your own words, in your own terms, what can we do to enhance Black liberation? What can we do to enhance us freeing our Black community, freeing our Black brothers and sisters from the constraints of history past, from the trauma that we experienced, so we can come together and move forward to progress the lives of Black people nationally?
I feel like that's very loaded because it's a lot of things we can do. However, I'm not sure if everybody's willing to. Perfect example, colorism. Some people say because you light skin or got fair skin, you're looked at as higher in society's eyes, which to some extent is true. But those are the same, or the people of darker skin, they're never going to want to help somebody if they look at them in that view, if that makes sense. So I feel like there's so many things that have stigmatized the Black community that we're harming ourselves with, that we're just kind of thrown to us like rocks. Like, here, go throw rocks at each other. And now it got to be somebody to clean up all them rocks. How you can do that, I don't know.
I think you said something. I think that you got to be able to check yourself. Sometimes we have to be mindful of the stuff that we say and the actions that we engage in, to be able to assess how they add to those negative stereotypes and how they add to the negative stigmas, right? Even like me saying, girl, she is late and she is ghetto down. And like, remember like who's around when I'm saying it. Like, so if I'm saying it around a white person, I have made it okay for that white person to then also say that. And knowing if they say that, I'm looking like, well, really, I was the one that introduced that to you. So I think that first step is like being mindful of the language that you use and how you show up for other folks in our community. How about you? What you feel?
Okay. I mean, I agree with you on that point. I think that that's even with using the N-word, right? I really think that's why other races are so comfortable. Like, they're just so comfortable because we become so comfortable with saying in all communities, when in reality, the real reason we came up with the A and not the hard ER is because we wanted to create something negative and turn it into a positive. But now they started using that, and now they use that as a negative. So to your point, I agree. And people and other races become comfortable.
Yeah, I just feel like it's hard to get people to do that as a whole. But I mean, with all these things, if you could be another race, any race, would you? Why or why not?
Okay. So y'all before I answer, I don't need y'all to cancel me. So I don't need y'all canceling me. Like, I love being Black. I enjoy being Black. I find value in being Black, but it's no shade to the Black gods and Black ancestors. If I could be any race, I would be Indian. No shade. I would be like Native Indian.
All right.
You know, because I feel like they stick together. They got some good food. I love
That's a
Indian food,
derivative
curry.
of Black, but I digress.
Okay, well, I guess I would just be Black then.
Yeah, I mean, they brown. So, I mean, Black, brownish. Ethiopian.
They Black.
I'm Ethiopian.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So you want to be like...
I'm nigga. That's where you beep. Beep.
Yeah, beep that.
I feel like, I would still be Black. Maybe not Black in America, but I would still be Black. I mean, it's in your skin. Melanin costs more than gold.
I feel like Nigerians are rich. Like,
that part.
And they got good teeth.
They do. And they got good skin. I could do that.
And they got good.
Could do that.
Well, never mind.
Uh-oh.
Now, see...
Look, you never know what you're going to get when you tune into Lit Talk. That was me living in my truth. And we want to inspire you all to do the same. Remember, being Black in America is so many things. You define it, you create it. But what's most important for it is that you should be liberated in your experience. So that's no matter if you're light-skinned, if you're dark-skinned, if you're white, or if you're Black with a tint of orange. You were uniquely designed to be who you are. And as long as we come together to dismantle the trauma and history that we have faced in America as Black people, we can get better. Because together, we can do it.
Right. And I say always love yourself. And ain't nobody tells you I love your Black ass.
Yeah, I really think y'all cooked with that. Like, I really do. Like, ditto.
So remember to like, Hashtag retweet, comment, and ask us questions in the chat. Baby, if you got the answer to Jonathan's question about that city in Oklahoma,
Drop it in the comments.
Drop it in the comments, because he got $20 in a date for you. Once again, I'm Chris.
$20 in the
I'm
chicken basket.
Tobias.
And I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Lit Talk.
And
Black
thank
on
you for
black on black
tuning
on
in.
black.